our good friend James the Blueprint Williams is going to join us at the top of the show right now to talk about his new book, Sports. Jimmy, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining the show.
Oh, man, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
We got you.
Listen, man, I'm fired up right now, man. Thank you for the invite, man. Before we even get started, I just want to congratulate you guys on what you do, because you definitely have one of the best sports podcasts on the entire internet. And I'm not saying that because you invited me on, but I listen to a lot of stuff, and most of it is junk, to be honest. But you guys are amazing.
No, we definitely appreciate it. Again, for those of you who don't know, Jimmy also has a podcast, War Room Sports, that you can hear here on Blog Talk Radio every Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern. And you can hear War Room Sports as well as us on the War Room Sports Podcast Network 24/7. You take a trip over to WRSPN.com. Plenty of great stuff here, like Jimmy said. It's us, it's the War Room, plenty of great podcasts. Even if you aren't a sports fan, plenty of good stuff over at the War Room Sports Podcast Network. Jimmy and Devin and the guys over there, we were fortunate enough that they chose us to be part of that. So we're thankful to you guys, Jimmy, to be part of what you guys have over there.
That's because you guys are one of the best that we've heard. Like, I just wanted to tell you that on air, so it's real. But it's the truth, though.
We definitely appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
And speaking of the best, one of the best books that I've read this year is your book. And again, it's not because we have you on the air, but it's your book, Sports, the book, S.P.O.R.T.S. Sports being only smart people only read the sports, which is a very, very interesting acronym. And we'll start off with that. Why'd you decide to call your book that?
Because, for one, I thought it was funny. And I love acronyms. As mentioned in the book, I'm a huge fan of acronyms, right? So I thought it was funny because, we talk about sports daily, and sports itself being an acronym with the word sports inside the acronym was just hilarious to me for some reason.
Right.
I'm a fan of words, obviously, and I thought that was kind of comical. So it's a joke in itself.
Right. So I get that. So now, but why, you have the sports as the title. Why did you decide that now was the time for you to write the book?
It's something that was on my bucket list, and also it's one of those things where I read a lot, right? So anyone who follows me on social media, that's at JW the Blueprint, and that's everywhere on any network. But I read a lot, so and I read a lot of sports books, biographies, a lot of essay books, and I was like, no one has written a book that I really want to read. So I kind of wrote this book for myself and my friends and anyone that would get it, with all the hip-hop references, the pop culture references. And after reading a book several years ago, and I'm pretty sure you've heard of it or read it, Who Moved My Cheese, which was a short book, right? It was about 98 pages. And I thought that was amazing because I read it multiple times. And I was like, people have this idea that books have to be 700 pages, War and Peace and this thing. But sometimes the shorter the better. So I had an idea that I want to write a short sports book that my friends and I would appreciate, we can laugh at. But, also talk about some serious issues, even though they're underlying. It's sort of like, if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you don't. Some people get it because they're into the same cultures and things that I'm into. So they get the references and, they have fun with it. So it's something I always wanted to do. And I found that, now is a good time to do it because I'm also trying to get more people reading because I appreciate words and books so much. I know a lot of people don't read. So by keeping it about sports and hip hop and also making it short, I kind of accomplished that because I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, man, I've had one guy told me, honestly, this is a grown man with wife and kids. And this is the first book I've ever read from cover to cover. I'm like, wow. So I have a lot of people who don't read reading, and I appreciate all the love that I'm getting. And if anybody follows me on social media, you see that I'm getting all kinds of love.
Oh, yeah, and you're talking to one that doesn't read. And one of my favorite hashtags of yours is, I can read Bish Ice Cube voice. So I think that's going to be me now. So,
you get it. Some people don't even catch that or get it, but you get it. You know what I mean?
So thankfully, due to your good book and Amazon Prime, I'm going to get this book in the next couple of days. So thanks, Jimmy.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
We're live with Jimmy Williams, co-founder of War Room Sports and the author of Sports, the book. And speaking of the book, like you were saying, Jimmy, you said you kind of wrote it so something that you and your friends can kind of, can read and kind of talk about. And like I wrote in a review, and I wrote a review about the book for those who don't know on Amazon. I kind of wrote it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No worries. And the book is kind of like the conversational barbershop kind of, conversation that we have, every week or every other week. We go to the barbershop, we sit around, we debate sports. Was that your goal when you wrote the book? Did you want to have that extension of that barbershop conversation?
Because to be honest, right, I've always enjoyed writing, and so I write a lot of times. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there who may be listening who've written things but didn't really have the gumption to put it out. So I always write. So I write things that are nonfiction, fiction, or what have you. But I had a teacher in school who told me that when you write, it's about expression. So stop trying to be perfect. Express yourself. Mm-hmm. So and that kind of stuck with me. And shout out to everybody who went to Central High, Central Badger in the building. But anyway, I had a teacher that told me that, and it kind of stuck with me to have fun, to make it fun. And, it's sort of like that barbershop talk. And that's right. A lot of the feedback that I'm getting. A lot of people says, I didn't think you could write stuff like that. I'm like, why not? You can write anything you want to. See, people have this idea in their head about books that, you have to be scholarly or, do a gang of research and all these things that you just can't have fun with it. It's a fun book. I do talk about some serious topics that are underlying in the book. If you catch it, like I said. But for the most part, it's a fun book. So that's another thing I wanted to express. I wanted to express myself and show people that, hey, this is something you can do. I've had several people reach out to me like, I want to take that same idea and write now. So, and that's like the best compliment anyone can give, because people honestly didn't think you can have fun with writing. And I know, Roy, you write a lot. So you understand what I mean by, and I read a lot of your work at Liberty Balls or what have you, and you have fun in your writing, but a lot of people don't get that you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely, it's like a lot of people just kind of think that writing is kind of, straightforward, ABC, tell the story or whatever have you. But you can tell a story in multiple ways, in different ways. You can put your own spin on any story, and you do that, very well in this book. And one of the things one of the essays that you wrote about in the book, or you have in the book, is about certain athletes that we all have our certain athletes that we refrain from criticizing, even though we kind of know that, they probably deserve criticism. And we have a guy on that same list. You and I have a guy that on our list that we don't criticize much. That's the one, Allen Ezell Iverson. Now, why do you think guys like us, don't criticize AI, or why do you think Kobe stands don't criticize Kobe? Like, what is it that about those guys that makes them immune from criticism from certain people?
It's interesting because in that chapter it's called the computer Putin theory, and the reason I call it that is because I juxtaposed Allen Iverson to Cameron, who I know at some point in his career, had the line "computers Putin," and that's when everybody turned their back on him. But I was such a big fan of Cameron that it kind of didn't matter what he said. I was still a fan, and kind of the same way about Allen Iverson. But Iverson is interesting. Like I get the whole LeBron Kobe thing, but Iverson is on a different level because Iverson shifted the culture. So I think everybody has their favorite player who they'll defend. But Iverson is different because Iverson literally shifted the culture. Like, a lot of people don't remember when AI came in the league and he had his tattoos and he embraced the hip-hop culture. He was criticized ungodly for that. He was called a thug, a criminal. And now, when you look around the league now, like, I remember AI was called a thug in one of the articles back in those days just for having a tattoo. You look in the league now, everybody has tattoos, including the players that go to Duke. Being sarcastic, but anyway, so it's funny because he literally shifted basketball culture, and I think that when you think about AI, when it's all said and done, outside of maybe Mike, he might be like one of the biggest icons in the game. Not saying on the court, but just what he did for basketball culture. There's maybe nobody bigger than AI, with the exception of maybe Jordan. And it could be argued he's bigger than Jordan in terms of how he shifted culture.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree, and just along those same lines. You have a guy like AI, like Jordan, other guys, Barkley, Bonds. They came along. Those are guys that we kind of looked up to, kind of idolized, when we were younger. Those guys came well before the current social media era. Like, they didn't have to deal with Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. If AI and Mike and Charles and those guys, if they were playing now, if they were in their prime now, and he had to deal with this, would they be able to survive?
It's funny because I've actually brought that up on our podcast that's a factor. A lot of people say I'm crazy for saying it's a factor. I'm like, well, these guys having to deal with that is literally a factor in how they participate in their sport. People think I'm crazy. I'm like, it's real. It's that real. But on the flip side of that, wouldn't you have loved to see Charles Barkley with a Twitter account?
Oh yeah.
That would have been amazing. Like, I think about this often. Like, I think about what if Babe Ruth had Twitter? Like, how amazing would that be? But I definitely think it's a factor, especially with Michael Jordan and the way that, he was following the way that he was worshipped. I couldn't imagine, that. But just having, as a player in today's NBA, having the people just pretty much have contact with you while you're playing and They find your family. I mean, you see what happened with Steph Curry and his wife. So these things are factors, whether people want to admit it or not. Like, this is something that these modern athletes have to deal with that our athletes in the past didn't. So, I definitely think it's a factor. But on the flip side, like I said, it would have been amazing to see some of the athletes in the past. Like Dennis Rodman would have been active on Twitter when he was in prime.
Yeah, Instagram.
Oh no! my new favorite addiction, Snapchat, because I'm like addicted to Snapchat lately. But couldn't you imagine Dennis Rodman on Snapchat? Listen, that's a good chapter for maybe sports too.
We're live with Jimmy the Blueprint Williams, author of the book Sports Smart People Only Read the Sports, and of course the co-founder of War Room Sports. And speaking of War Room Sports, again, for those of you who don't know, Jimmy hosts a podcast here on Blog Talk Radio every Thursday night, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. And they're going to be talking sports like we talk sports on this show. And I want to switch gears a little bit, Jimmy.
No, because I want to ask. Now, I want to ask, because one of my favorite War Room Sports isms is Tresvanti. Jimmy, can you remember a more Tresvanti football player than LaShawn McCoy? I mean, it feels like
Shady had a bad week this week.
It feels like he just got dumped like 30 times. What's his beef right now? Like he didn't even go to the party that his boys threw for him. Is he in his bag about this whole Chip Kelly thing?
You know what? His reaction made things so much worse. Like leading into the game, I mean, everyone was upset about him running his mouth. Which I find funny too, because it's literally Shady being Shady. Shady did that when he was here, but the fact that he was here, we loved him. You know what I mean? But so he didn't change who he was, but his reaction, unbelievable. Like when I read that story about him not going to the party, I was in shock. Like, because I even trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. After the game, he acted very Tresvanti, in the way he reacted. Not talking to anyone, and I don't have anything to say. But even if you try to give him the benefit of the doubt, the game is just over. He's emotional because of it. But now he's had time to really get himself together, and he's still pouting. Unbelievable. But it is what it is.
Also, just one more sports thing before we kind of twist the gears a little bit. I know you guys are going to talk about it on the show Thursday, but I wanted to get your thoughts about it now. What's your take on the Serena Williams being named the SI Sports Person of the Year? Because there's people out there, it's backlash SI is getting, people out there, not in favor of Serena winning the award. What's your take on that?
I think it's amazing. I think it's well deserved.
I agree.
I love Serena Williams. I would love for her to do nothing but succeed. Double entendre. But at the end of the day, this is the world we live in. I was reading some of the criticism, and they were talking about, we should have named a couple horses and random shortstops. And I'm like, it's just amazing. The fact of the matter is we still live in a world that's very sexist, as well as very racist. Let's face it. So she has an uphill battle on two fronts. So it's not shocking, but I congratulate SI for having the gumption to do that, because she definitely deserves it. I mean, she's arguably the greatest tennis player of all time, bar none. I mean, it can be argued. I'm not saying she is, but it can be argued. She's at the table of God, so to speak. And for those who've read the book, understand that little reference. But she's definitely deserving of this. But it's not shocking the backlash that SI got, but which is why I praise them for even doing this.
We're live with Jimmy Williams, again, the author of Sports, the book, and co-founder of War Room Sports. Just real quick before we talk about the book, I do want to ask you, since like us, you're a big fan of Serial, and Serial Season 2 debuted last Thursday. We have to ask you, we all kind of have an idea of what Bo Bergdahl did, but how is Sarah Koenig and the guys at Serial, how are they going to make him a sympathetic figure? Do you have any ideas on that?
Sarah is amazing. She gives the greatest cliffhangers ever. And the fact of the matter is, I was like, I don't know how she's going to do that. And then at the end of the first episode, she says, next week when I speak to the Taliban, I'm like, whoa, who just calls the Taliban like they're dominoes? Nobody but Sarah. So I think it's possible, because when listening to the first season with Adnan, I mean, I went back and forth almost every episode between guilty or not guilty. So it's definitely possible. The way she tells the story is amazing. Like her voice is amazing, So I don't know how, because with all the information that we had, he was painted a certain way. But I also know that there's always narratives put out there to paint someone. So I try to go in with the open mind. So I'll see what happens, and it's going to be difficult, but I think it's definitely possible when you're talking about the government, specifically in the climate that we're in the world today.
I definitely agree. But enough of the non-sports. Let's get back to your book. For everybody out there who may not know how to get their copy of Sports the Book, please take a minute or so. Let everybody out there know how they can check it out.
Absolutely. You can go to sportsthebook.com, which will take you to the Amazon page. It's available on a Kindle format as well as paperback. You can also go to warrumsports.com. There's a link on there for it. Or you can just contact me directly. I'm at JW the Blueprint on every social network. And, also it's in Black and Nobel right in Philadelphia at 1409 West Erie Avenue. If you're in Philadelphia, it's in bookstores. It's funny because it would have been in, Borders and Barnes & Noble, but they barely exist these days. So Amazon put everybody out of business. But it's definitely on Amazon. Or you can just go right to say sportsthebook.com, takes you to the Amazon page.
Again, one of the best books I've read this year, Sports the Book, our good friend Jimmy the Blueprint Williams. Jimmy, thanks, man.
Congrats, man.
Thank you guys both. Thanks for having me, man, and continue the good work, man, because I'm going to tell you, you guys are amazing. You do this for 2 hours, and a lot of people don't know how difficult it is to keep people's attention for 2 hours, but you are some of the best at doing it. So congratulations on all your success as well.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jimmy. We appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take it easy.
All right. Again, that was our good friend Jimmy the Blueprint Williams from War Room Sports talking about his book, Sports the Book. Again, check it out, Amazon. If you're in Philly, Black and Nobel, you can get a hard copy, or you can get a hard copy version on Amazon as well. Get a Kindle version. Very, very entertaining book. Again, it's one of those books where it's a conversation that you have in your barbershop. It's the same conversation. It's we talk about Mike and Bird, and Jimmy's a guy like you who thinks John Elway's the greatest quarterback ever. That's wrong, but it's fine because it's a barbershop conversation. It's cool, It's good.
But you can put that out there and not be called blasphemous. Actually, be called accurate.
No, you're absolutely right. So again, shout out to our good friend Jimmy Williams from War Room Sports. Again, check it out, sportsthebook.com, or check it out, warroomsports.com. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll get into our regularly scheduled podcast, to our six-pack, and break down the Eagles' win against the Buffalo Bills last Sunday. You're listening to the Broad Street Line here on a Blog Talk Radio.